Hello, this is Bob Buckley at True 32 Corporation, and this is the second in a series of best practices. The first one dealt with drawing walls in clockwise manner and job names and header information and all of that. This one I want to talk about, once you've drawn the walls, what you're going to, what order do you add things to them. So I'm just going to make a design up as I go here. I have maybe a first wall of about 3,000 millimeters, and I'm just taking my default settings for the 10-foot ceiling here. Then I'm going to add one, let's say it's 3,800 millimeters. Then I'm going to add a wall that's, probably let's say 2,800 millimeters, something like that. And then we're going to add an island wall. So we've drawn those walls clockwise, so that as we come around the room, navigate with this gray bar here that will actually gets what we expect to happen here. And so once I've drawn the walls, the next thing I want to do is add the known items, the things that I know where they are. There is no question where they're going to go. So let's say there's a window on this wall. So we'll come here and we'll say we want a window, and it's single casement, and I'm just going to take the defaults here and say that it's actually centered on this wall. So now we've got a window, and if we come to our sink cabinet section, most of the time when you have a window, and we've actually even added the window here in this group, so that if you wanted to start here, that would work too. But we can come in here, almost always we have a sink centered on that window, centered on unit 1. And then we almost always have a dishwasher. So not only do we have dishwashers in the appliance group here, but we also have one here just because, out of convenience sake. So we can say that we want a dishwasher to the right of unit number 2. And we'll say this is a dishwasher with no control panel. That's one of the new units. And go ahead and put our knobs on there. And then from there, we want to add any other known items. So let's say we have a door over here on this wall. We'll say that door will take the defaults on it, but if we needed to set the width or height or whatever, we would. Let's just say this thing is, 102 millimeters off this left corner, and it's a door with a right hand knob. And then those are the items that we know as far as the windows and doors, the fixed items in the room. Now we need to add the cabinets that we know, which would also be known factors. In this case, let's say we're going to do a blind corner over here, so let's go ahead and do that. And we'll say we've got a base cabinet and it's a blind left, and I'm going to accept that default width, but we may change that. Add my knobs, and then when I come back to this corner, I know without a shadow of a doubt that I've got a return filler because I've got a blind cabinet. So I can just go ahead and say I want a blind filler, and I want a right blind filler. And this is showing this is not very good. Didn't turn out very well. But going by those known items, I can go through here and really determine how I want this to work. Now I certainly don't want to add 128 millimeters to that filler. So I may say, well, I want to move the dishwasher over here and do something different in that other corner. I may decide to put a drawer stack here, but by putting the known factors in first, I can find any conflicts, and I can't think of a single cabinet that would work at 128 millimeters wide. So I may even change what type of cabinet I want to use in that corner. Maybe I'll use a pie cut cabinet with an odd door size on it, something like that. But again, going with those known factors first really helps you. Now let's say that it's a really cheap job, and really the only option is to add 128 millimeters to that filler. That's a bad option, but let's just say that's what we needed to do there. And then we'll go ahead and say, okay, well, what are we going to do in the corners of the upper cabinets? Maybe we already know that they said they wanted diagonal corner cabinets, so we can just come in here and choose our or the blind or the 45 or the pie cut, whatever you think they might want. But let's say they just wanted 45-degree corner cabinets. Because I'm on this wall, I can just choose left corner and it will set the left one, and then I can either click on that again or come over here and click on this again and now choose a right corner, and again it's already automatically gone right to right in a position of 0, so I've got that. Then I would want to get my applied ends and the reveals between this window. These are the known things, the things that I know where they're going to go. So let's use the top applied end right, and we'll just go ahead and say it's a raised panel in. And one of the ways to place this would be, say I want this left of the window, and you could use this space field. The bad part about using this space field, it's going to put a space of 128 millimeters between there, and that works fine. The only downside to using it is now when I want to come to use this left and I say that I want it right of unit number 1, it's already in there, and that's fine for that particular one. But what if it was wrong? It's already filled in. You just got to be careful. That I wish that didn't. It was just used one time. It didn't continue on. But since it did, and it's the right thing, I'm fine with it. And so now I know what my cabinets on either side are going to be. So I can say top cabinet's going to be 533 at 610 millimeters. And then I can double click on that cabinet before I put the knobs on and say right to right is 610, copy, fill that in. And I can grab my light rail for cabinet number 11 and say that that's 533, and well, cabinet number 12 is fine too, center on that cabinet. And then I can just, because I know that's already the right width, I can say left of 9 and copy. And missed that by a little bit, but we'll center it on 11. I'm not sure what that was all about. Maybe I didn't hit the right number there. Then we want our flat freeze here, so we'll go ahead and grab our flat freeze and say that that's also 533, and we'll center it on 14 since we just dropped 14, and that's correct. And then we can double click on that one and say center on 12 and copy. So you make pretty good time when you get these known factors in and then fill in the blanks. Let's say over here we do want a blind corner cabinet there, so we'll take a base cabinet and we'll say base blind corner left. And we already know from the default that we want a 75 millimeter space off the wall. So we want this width to be 1443 minus 75. So all I can do is just let KCD do the math for me. 1443 minus 75. It's already going to position it in the right position. It's already going to put the right countertop overhang on the left side. So all I got to do is just say OK. And that filled that entire space, left it off the wall the appropriate amount. All I got to do is just add my knobs. And I'll go ahead and add my knobs to these other cabinets. And just so you'll know how this works, I'm also going to go ahead and fill in this excuse me, light rail for the 45-degree corner cabinets. It's a left angle, so I'm basically done. I don't need to do anything else. Everything's filled in. I want one over here on the left, so I just say OK. Then I want to do the same thing again and say I want one on the right. Again, it's already put all the right information in there. I'm done. But this diagonal light rail is specific to this wall. So when I come to this next wall, it's not there. So I actually have to add a second one if I want that to show right. So I can come in here and say I want to, so I'm getting the cabinet, not the light rail. I want a 45 light rail. And in this case, I want a left again. So I just say OK, got it. Then I can come back over here to this one and do the same thing. 45, 610, or 45 light rail. This time I want a right because I'm on this wall. I want it on the right side of the wall. Say OK, I'm done. So now on any of these walls, I've got light rail. So you keep going with our known items. We know where we want this applied in here to be 128 millimeters off of that left end. So we'll say we've got a top applied left. Actually, we'll go ahead and put our, may not fit. I didn't pay any attention to what, again, I just made this up as I go, but let's go ahead and put a top, or go to tall. Let's put an oven there. This kitchen may not even have a refrigerator in it. Oven will fit, but maybe a refrigerator wouldn't in only 1300. So let's go ahead and choose, we want a tall applied left. And since we're going to put an oven there, I'm going to use a raised panel 3 panel. And I want it to be right of, and again, see, it saved that 128. In this case, it's going to be right, but there's going to be other cases where that's not right. And if you're ignoring it, then it's not going to be where you expected it to be. Which is probably exactly what happened with that light rail that I tried to set left of something or right of something. So now we want to say that we want this right of the door number 4 and then 128 millimeter space between it. And then we're going to go ahead and place our oven. So I'm going to use one of these new single oven units. 762 is right of 22. And again, I got that 128 because I used right of. You can see it's got that 128 millimeter space. Once you zero it out, it won't do it anymore. So right of 22. Next time it'll be the default. And then now I've got drawer fronts down here, but what I really like on these deep drawers are doors, so those rails are full size. So I'm using my control key, which gives me the door icon, and then clicking on that, and it revolves through the different standard doors and turns those into doors as opposed to drawer fronts. Still going to be called a drawer front, but they're doors, and it segregates them in the order list Conestoga so that I actually get doors for this with the appropriate size, styles, and rails. We'll go ahead and add our top cabinet above the ovens, and we have a cabinet specific to that. It's already the right size, and we'll say right or centered on 23 is fine. And it's already the right height. And then we'll say tall applied right, and right of 24 is fine. Then we'll go ahead and get our flat freeze. 762 centered on 24 or left of 25, either one works. Now we want to go back to our base cabinets, and we want that return filler. So we got a base blind return filler right here, and we want a right blind filler right here, coming off the right corner, 627 millimeters. Again, if your startup standards are right, everything's going to be right. All you have to do is just place it. Then we're going to use like a tray cabinet. We'll come to our base cabinets. Actually, I'm already there. And we'll use our full height door cabinet. We'll say we want it to be 277 millimeters, left of 27. We'll go ahead and put our knob on that. And then we'll go to our top cabinets. And fill in our last wall cabinet up there, and we see we have a space of 370. By placing all the known items, filling in the spaces was really easy. Left of 7. And, I don't know why that went there. I don't remember seeing anything there. I do know that these corner cabinets, I usually would say out of the corner 610, but I do know that these corner cabinets, like this corner cabinet was placed on the other wall, so it doesn't recognize it on this wall, and that's probably, I could have said 21 and it probably would have been fine. Light rail is 370, and it's centered on 29, and then we want our flat freeze. And again, it's 370, and you can say centered on 30, which is the light rail we just placed. And then we can come around here. Now, here we have a peninsula wall, so we almost always want on that peninsula wall to have a blind cabinet. Or let's go ahead and use a pie cut. We haven't used a pie cut cabinet yet, so let's go ahead and go in here to our base cabinets, and we'll use our one-piece pie cut cabinet to left, so we're done. Then we'll place our applied base applied. In this case, we want to right, and this is for an island peninsula, so it's going to take it to the floor, put a toe notch in it, and make it a different depth than all the others, and push it back behind. And I'll show you that from above just in a second. So we want that to be raised panel, but you see it's 654, and from the wall negative 25. and then I'm going to say that the right to right position is 0 and say OK. And now when we look at that, well, but you can see it's popped out behind here to make room for our raised panel back or our plywood back, whatever we're going to use there. But let's go ahead and finish this. Let's say we've got a 4-drawer stack here. It is 895 millimeters, and it's left of, I believe that's 33. Hard to read. We'll go ahead and correct those drawers down there. Turn them into doors, then put our knobs on here. Since this is so wide, we put 2 knobs on here. And now I'm going to click on my secondary button above the peninsula on the wall area, and that'll take me to the back. If I'm on the back and I click on my primary button, it takes me back to the front. So that's a navigation trick that maybe not everybody's aware of. But again, this applied end is pushed back to receive my raised panel back. So here's my base island peninsula backs. I can come in here and say that I've got several deals here. I've got a wall type unit that I don't want to use here. I've got a wainscot panel wall type unit that I don't want to use. In this case, I just want to use this back panel. So I'm going to tell it that, I see here that it's 1809 millimeters from the wall to the inside of that panel. So I'm going to say 1809, and the right to right position is 0, and I want 3 raised panels. And I may want to adjust some of these panel styles and rails, but if they look good to me, I can just go ahead and say OK, and I've got that. And now when I look at this thing overhead, you see that, let me turn off view countertops. I'm going to turn off the countertops. And I'm going to zoom in right there and just let you see how that particular panel is set up to where it's sticking 6 millimeters past this 3/4 inch applied end we've put on the back. So even the default for that panel end is specifically for that application. That's new to version 9. Turn those countertops back on. Come back to this wall, finish it up. So we'll stick just a base cabinet. Just say drawer over door 745. And then is at 1066. Plus 75. I didn't take into account the 75 off the wall. And we'll put my knobs on, and then let's say we've got an applied end for the upper. You just want to go with your known factors and then fill in between. So we want to say top applied right with the light rail, and actually I'm going to do something a little different there. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to applied into the countertop. Top applied into the countertop, raised panel end, and I'm going to hold it off that right wall 128 millimeters. Say OK. Then I'm going to take my top, I've got a top door over 2 drawers here, and I'm going to take that cabinet, and it is, I'll just say it's 762 and the left of 37. I don't believe that that's going to be the right height. Yeah, actually is. So that's going down to the countertop. It's got 2 drawers on it. You know what? And actually, this is a good place. I wouldn't actually do it like that anyway. Let me erase this real quick and show you. In this case, if I were going to do exactly what I was trying to do there, it would make sense to use the alternate group. It's going to make that cabinet deeper and taller. So let's do that. Let's come in here and say we want to applied in, top applied right to the countertop, raised panel, and the right to right position is 128 millimeters. We want our top door over 2 drawers, and we want it to be 762 millimeters. It is left of 37, and see it's 394 millimeters deep, and that applied end is based off of that, so it's 414. And then we're going to do our top applied left to countertop, and left of 38, and that one's going to need to be a slab panel. We'll go ahead and put our knobs on these. Now we've got 1262 millimeters left, so that's pretty easy. We'll come in here and say we've got a 1262 divided by 2, and it's at 610. Say OK. Actually, I'm in the wrong group. I'm still in that alternate group, so I want to erase that. Come here to my regular top cabinets to fill in here. So we'll come up here to the top cabinet. Again, we got 1262 divided by 2, and we're at 610. Then we can just double click on that cabinet, say write up and copy, and then we'll come get our light rail. And it's, if you can't remember what that was, 1231 times 2 at 610, knowing that this cabinet is 610 millimeters. And then we can do the same thing with flat freeze, top flat freeze. 631 times 2 at 610. And we'll come back to our, and I should have done this while I was there, top alternate cabinet group, and grab our flat freeze. This freeze is automatically already made in the deeper position. I just need to position it on the cabinet, center it on 38, but it already knows that cabinet's deeper and taller because it's from the same group. So when we look at that overhead, we see we got this deeper cabinet, and here's the flat freeze on it, and then here's this flat freeze set back shallower. So that takes care of that wall, and that wall. I think we're done. We just don't have a kitchen in this room, but we'll just pretend it's on another wall somewhere. So when we look at this overhead, we've got a finished job very quickly, real quick design, but we started with drawing our walls and then adding the known items, and then you add, and that can include corner cabinets, sinks, windows, doors, dishwashers, things that you just absolutely know where they're going, and then filling in between with all the other cabinetry. And of course, once I get through this process at some point in time, usually as soon as the walls are drawn, I would go to Change, Edit System, I would go to View, Rooms, and rename this room, give this room a name of Kitchen. And you do have to draw the walls first. If you don't do anything and you add that name, then somewhere in the save process you're going to lose that. And then, as I said earlier, I don't want to save this job because it's just a sample job, but you should save often as you go. So hopefully that's helpful in the design process or the layout process, and hopefully it'll help speed y'all up. Because we drew this in wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, wall 4, if we were here on wall 1 looking at the elevation, when we click here on this the room gray box here, it goes to wall 2, and then wall 3, and then wall 4, and then back to wall 1. If we use the secondary button, it backs up in the exact same order, just opposite order. So that's a very handy option as long as you draw your rooms clockwise or counterclockwise. You can use that button to toggle from wall to wall to wall and see the relationship between the corners. So that does it for best practices, the second version of best practices. And I hope you find that useful, and look forward to seeing you on another video. Thanks.